Welcome to the show, everybody. Today, we're diving deep into the dark side of history, man. We're talking about the gangs, the mobs, the syndicates, those groups that operate in the shadows and leave a trail of chaos in their wake. These are the kind of stories that will make you lock your doors and check under your bed at night. We're talking about some seriously hardcore history here, folks. Get ready to have your minds blown as we count down the top 10 most notorious gangs in history. We're kicking things off in the gritty streets of 19th century New York City. Imagine like gangs of New York before it was even cool to be a gang in New York. These guys were the OGs, man. The 40 Thieves, they called themselves, and they weren't exaggerating about their numbers or their ruthlessness. They ran the 5 Points neighborhood, which was like the Wild West back then. Pickpocketing, robbery, murder, you name it, they did it. And they were organized, man, like a well-oiled machine of crime. Speaking of the 5 Points, you can't talk about gangs in New York without mentioning the Dead Rabbits. These guys were hardcore Irish immigrants, and they were not afraid to throw down. They were famous for their street brawls, man. Epic battles with rival gangs like the Bowery Boys. We're talking about hundreds of guys armed with clubs, knives, whatever they could get their hands on. It was a bloodbath, dude. And they were known for their brutality. They didn't just fight to win, they fought to send a message. Now the Bowery Boys, they were another major player in the 5 Points gang wars. They were mostly American-born and they saw the Irish immigrants as a threat, so naturally they clashed with the Dead Rabbits constantly. It was like a turf war on steroids. And these guys were tough, man. They were known for their distinctive style. Stovepipe hats, red shirts, and their fists, of course. They were like the fashion icons of violence. But they weren't just about brawling, they had their fingers in all sorts of criminal pies. Extortion, gambling, you name it. Chapter 4, the 5 Points Gang. From street thugs to organized crime. Now we're talking about a gang that took things to a whole new level. The 5 Points Gang. These guys were like the Mafia before the Mafia. They started out as a small-time street gang, but they quickly rose to power in the criminal underworld. And they had some serious muscle, man. Guys like Al Capone and Lucky Luciano cut their teeth in the 5 Points Gang. We're talking about the guys who would go on to become legends in the world of organized crime. Chapter 5. The Chicago Outfit, America's most notorious crime syndicate. Speaking of organized crime, let's talk about the big leagues. The Chicago Outfit, these guys were the real deal, man. They controlled everything in Chicago, gambling, prostitution, you name it. And they were ruthless. They didn't hesitate to use violence to get what they wanted. They were responsible for countless murders, and they ruled through fear and intimidation. The outfit was like a well-oiled machine with Al Capone at the helm. They were making millions during Prohibition, and they weren't afraid to take out anyone who got in their way. Chapter 6. The Medelan Cartel, the Cocaine Cowboys. Now, let's head down to Colombia, where we meet the infamous Medelan Cartel. These guys were the kings of cocaine, man. They flooded the streets of America with their product, and they made billions doing it. And at the heart of it all was Pablo Escobar, the cartel's charismatic but ruthless leader. This guy was like a rock star, a folk hero to some, but a ruthless killer to others. He had a Robin Hood complex, giving money to the poor while ordering the deaths of anyone who crossed him. The cartel was responsible for countless murders, bombings, and kidnappings. Chapter 7. The Yakuza, Japan's shadow government. Now let's travel to Japan, where we encounter the Yakuza, one of the oldest and most powerful organized crime groups in the world. These guys are like the Japanese Mafia, but with a strict code of honor and a fascinating history. They've been around for centuries, man. And they have their fingers in everything. Gambling, drugs, extortion, you name it. They're known for their elaborate tattoos and their strict hierarchy. They even have their own rituals and traditions. The Yakuza are a fascinating and terrifying example of how organized crime can operate in the shadows for centuries. Chapter 8. The Crips and Bloods, a history of violence and despair. Back in the United States, we have the Crips and Bloods, two of the most notorious street gangs in America. These gangs were born out of poverty and despair in Los Angeles. Their rivalry is legendary, and it's resulted in countless deaths over the years. They were heavily involved in the crack cocaine epidemic in the 1980s, and their violence continues to plague many communities today. It's a tragic story of how social and economic conditions can create a breeding ground for gang violence. Chapter 9, MS-13. The most feared gang in the Americas. And then there's MS-13, or Mara Salvatrucha, one of the most brutal and feared gangs in the world. They originated in El Salvador, but they've spread throughout Central America and the United States. They're known for their extreme violence, their use of machetes, and their ruthless tactics. They're involved in everything from drug trafficking to human smuggling, and they've terrorized communities across the Americas. Chapter 10. The Russian Mafia, from the streets to the oligarchs. Finally, we come to the Russian Mafia, a sprawling network of criminal organizations with roots in the Soviet Union. These guys are involved in everything from arms trafficking to cybercrime, and they have a reputation for being incredibly ruthless. They're known for their connections to corrupt officials and their ability to operate with impunity in many parts of the world. The Russian Mafia is a prime example of how organized crime can flourish in the wake of political and economic upheaval. Outro: The Legacy of Violence. So there you have it, folks, the top 10 most notorious gangs in history. These gangs may be from different parts of the world and they may have different origins, but they all share one thing in common. They're all responsible for incredible amounts of violence and suffering. It's a sobering reminder of the dark side of human nature, and it shows how easily organized crime can take root and spread. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more mind-blowing content. And remember, stay away from gangs, man. They're nothing but trouble.